If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
I just love swinging and grooving to that theme song. Thank you so much, Austin Angelo, and welcome everybody to another exciting episode of The Game Show, the talk show all about the world of television game and competition shows. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and today I'm welcoming on a first-time guest of The Game Show who had the opportunity to play a lot of games during the quintessential decades of game shows, the 1970s and the 1980s. As many of you know, during that 20-year span, a good number of game shows featured celebrity panelists and celebrity players. And although these celebrities were talented actors, performers, and entertainers in their own right, and appeared in a number of television programs, movies, and Broadway shows, it was their connection with game shows that I think made them household names and recognizable stars. This certainly rings true with my guest today. Although she has appeared on a number of famous TV shows like Gunsmoke, Perry Mason, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and Love American Style, and starred as Mrs. Davis in the 1980 parody film Airplane. As a longtime game show fan, I know my guest from her role as a semi-regular panelist on the 1973 to 1982 edition of Match Game.
Get ready to match the stars. Avery Schreiber, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Lana Wood, Richard Dawson, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game 75. And now here's the star of Match Game 75, Gene Rayburn. Get ready to match the stars. Scoey Mitchell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Deborah Lee Scott, Richard Dawson, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game 76. And now here's the star of Match Game 76, Gene Rayburn. Get ready to match the stars from The Price is Right, Bob Barker, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Ava Gabor, from Family Feud, Richard Dawson, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game PM. And now here's the star of Match Game PM, Gene Rayburn. Get ready to match the stars from our magazine, Gary Collins, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, from It Is Enough, Susan Richardson, Richard Paul, and from Flow, George Bulifant, as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game. And now, here's the star of Match Game, Gene Rayburn. Get ready to match the stars from Charlie's Angels, David Doyle, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Phyllis Diller, Brett Travelina, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game. And now, here's the star of Match Game, Gene Rayburn.
While Match Game was the game show she appeared on most often, my guest has been a celebrity player on the $20,000 Pyramid, Password Plus, Beat the Clock, Tattletales, and Mind Readers. She's also the author of the book My 4 Hollywood Husbands, in which she chronicles her 7 decades in show business and writes about her marriages with 4 stars of both the big and small screens, each of whom had their own personal troubles with alcoholism. Joining me on the line is a woman who got introduced by Johnny Olson a number of times on Match Game, but now I'm glad that I get to introduce her onto The Game Show. Please welcome Joyce Bulifant. Joyce, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
This is such a thrill for me because I've been watching Match Game since I was 6 years old, and you are my first semi-regular panelist, or just any panelist that appeared on the 73 to 82 Match Game to join me on the game show. So this is an absolute honor for me.
Well, thank you.
And we are going to chat about Match Game and all the other shows that you've been on, as well as your book that I'm excited to chat with you about as well. And then later on, Joyce, I know you haven't been on the Match Game set for about 40 years.
My goodness, really?
Yeah, well, the show ended in 1982, so it's almost been 40 years. But just for you, I have recreated Match Game. I'm going to roll out the shag carpeting and bring out the skinny microphone just for you, Joyce, and we're going to play a little Match Game today.
Okay.
So, Joyce, are you ready to take a trip on the turntable with me and chat about game shows?
Absolutely.
So I want to start off by asking you, growing up and even getting into your teenage years before you dove into acting, were you a big game player and were you a fan of game shows on the radio and television?
Absolutely not. It was not. But one of the first things I ever did was name that tune.
The original Name That Tune was with host George DeWitt back in the 1950s, and when you were a contestant on Name That Tune, didn't you experience the quiz show scandal firsthand?
I didn't know at the time that it was a scandal, but when they were holding up the sign giving me the name of the song, and I saw them waving at me in the wings, and I thought, well, I can't look, that's cheating. So I didn't look.
Even when a whole scandal was happening, I'm glad to hear that you were an honest game player.
I was.
During the 1960s, you were established as a TV actress and appeared in a number of Western television series like Gunsmoke and Wagon Train and The Virginian, as well as appeared on other classic shows like McHale's Navy and Perry Mason and My Three Sons. So I'm sure that must have been an exhilarating decade for you.
I was so lucky. I was working all the time.
Yeah, and you had one of the last ever studio contracts, right?
Yes, it was a different kind of studio contract, though. It was just wonderful because I had to do a pilot for a series for Universal, and I had to appear in 8 starring roles on different shows, and I could work at other studios in between. It was amazing. It wasn't like a weekly salary that you got and you had to do anything. I had to star in 8 shows, and I had to do a series. It was really fun, but it was the last one like that.
Well, that's my kind of contract, knowing that you have to do stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Since you were acting on so many pilots and shows, were you hoping to be asked to be a celebrity guest on various game shows during the 60s and 70s? Because aside from plugging their work, game shows provided celebrities with a lot of exposure.
Not really. I didn't really think about it because my biggest dream was doing Broadway and doing television, and I was so lucky to be able to do both. But I had a PR person at the time, and they came to me and said, would you like to do this? And I thought, oh, sure, that'd be fun. That's kind of how I approached it. It wasn't like something that I looked for. It just kind of happened.
And I'm presuming that was Match Game?
Yeah, that was Match Game. And the most wonderful thing that happened to me during Match Game, I was actually doing a play called Vanities in Chicago. And my manager called me, not the PR person, and said, Joyce, you have to stop doing game shows. People are going to just look at you as a celebrity instead of an actress. And you are an actress. And I said, yes, I am. And I went out in a snowstorm walking to the theater, and this lady bumped into me and looked at me and held me at arm's length. And she said, what is it you do for me? Do you work at my dry cleaners? And I said, no, ma'am. And she said, do you work at the grocery store? I said, no. The hairdressers? I said, no, I'm awfully sorry. I have to go. And I kept going on to the theater. All of a sudden, she ran up behind me, turned me around, gave me a big hug, and she said, I know what it is you do for me. You make me laugh. And she was talking about Match Game. And so because of that very instance that happened, I never gave it up.
Well, I'm sure that must have been a great moment for you, especially since as an actress, your goal is to bring out emotions in people, whether that be sadness or joy. But even though you were simply just filling in blanks on a game show to help contestants win money, that must have been a treat hearing firsthand that your appearances on Match Game contributed to someone's daily happiness.
It really was. It really made me feel so good. And it was amazing the number of stars that watched it. Peggy Lee and Fred Astaire. And one day I was at Sardi's in New York, and I was with my husband, William Asher. And all of a sudden, Elizabeth Taylor walked in, and I had never seen her. And I looked at my husband and I said, "Oh my gosh, it's Elizabeth Taylor." And I looked down. I didn't want to stare. And when I looked up, she was standing right at my table. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I enjoy you so much on Match Game." And I was so befuddled, I couldn't even say thank you.
Well, now that I know that Elizabeth Taylor watched Match Game, it really assures my view that I've had for a long time about the cliche it was to either be a game show host or be a recurring game show panelist. Because these were the people being seen every day and the people that brought joy to so many individuals, including some of the biggest stars in the world. So for me, I've always looked at constantly being on game shows as an advantage in show business.
It was, and it really connected you to the public, which was nice. And the idea that it helped so many people who were shut-ins have a fun day and have something to look forward to. That made me feel good.
Your first game show appearance as a celebrity was on Match Game, and specifically it was episode 96 of Match Game 73. Brad fact! Now, at the time, the show was relatively new. So, Joyce, did you watch previous episodes and thought it would be fun to be a panelist on the show?
I didn't. I was so busy working and being a mom to 5 children, 3 of my own, and then I had stepchildren. And I was raising money for dyslexia and a school and working, and I just didn't have time to watch game shows.
And then, what was your first experience like on the Match Game set? I mean, I'm sure you had a pleasant experience because you came back multiple times afterwards, but what was your first experience like on Match Game?
Well, it was fun. It was different, and I just am a silly person, so I don't know. I just think that they thought I was fun, so they kept inviting me back, which was nice. And it was also difficult because it was on the weekend, so I would try to take one of my children with me. It was family time, so it was hard to leave the family on a Sunday, but it was fun doing the show. And as I said, I would try to take one of the children with me, but I wouldn't allow them to come into the dinner time because the conversation was very mature. So they had to stay at my dressing room during dinner time.
Well, I know that Gene and all the panelists for that tape day had dinner all together, correct?
Yes, we did. It was fun. Charles Nelson Reilly was so funny during those evenings. And then we had wonderful guest stars like Ethel Merman and Ava Gabor and wonderful people, Orson Bean, that would come and we'd all have dinner with them. And it was like a fun dinner party, but too mature for my children to sit in. I would give them coloring to do in my dressing room and go on and give them a snack or something.
You've been very open about having dyslexia, so were you nervous going on Match Game because you thought your dyslexia might make you mess up during gameplay?
Oh, yes. And I did mess up because oftentimes I couldn't spell the word that I knew it should be. And so I would make up something as close as I could that I could spell. But one time it was impossible. I had only one word. It didn't make any sense. I had to say it, couldn't spell it. And I thought, well, when I put this in the slot and Gene comes by, I'll just take it out real quick, say the word and put it back so he can't really see it. And he came by and I did that. I took it out really quick, put it right back in. And he said, "Oh my gosh, the dummy got it right," or something. And he took about 3 steps away, turned around and came back and said, "Wait a minute. How did you spell that?" And I tell you, I broke out in a hog sweat because I was so embarrassed. And I took it out and he showed the world. But he didn't know that I was dyslexic and I didn't know at the time. So I just felt stupid again. But the lack of being able to spell, it made me come up with some pretty creative answers.
I know one of them was stethoscope. I can't even spell stethoscope.
I think that was it. Yes, that may have been it.
The doctor said to the patient, Dottie, "Madam, if you want to ring for the nurse, pull on this cord. Don't yank my blank."
The stethoscope, is that?
Stethoscope, that's it. Now, Richard.
I had a picture in my mind of the doctor leaning over the lady patient.
Yes?
And he said, "When you want the nurse,
Yes?
ring the bell.
Yes?
Don't yank my tie."
Okay.
Disgusting.
You went through all that to get a buzz.
Oh, what am I going to do? I had a wrong answer.
Joyce,
I look embarrassed.
show us what a wrong answer really looks like.
This is a super answer.
9 years
It
of
ain't
college.
spelled right. I asked Richard's help. I'm sorry it took so long, but...
Don't involve me with this spelling, please.
Come here now. Now, wait a minute. Want to see what rotten spelling looks like? That's what rotten spelling looks like. Get out of there.
Yes. This is how she spells time.
That's time.
At the time, when you first started on Match Game, you were on the show Love Thy Neighbor, which was on ABC, and Match Game was on CBS. So were you surprised that they actually picked you to be on Match Game? Because a lot of the times, if they're promoting shows on the game shows, they didn't like to promote shows on different networks. So were you thrilled that they decided to pick you, even though you were on a different network?
Oh, yes, but I don't think I even thought about that. And boy, I love that show. Doing Love Thy Neighbor was the most fun time, because I got to do a lot of physical comedy, and I love that. And I love the theme that it was a black couple and a white couple living next door to each other. And the black man was the boss of the white man, and then my girlfriend was his wife. It was really a fun show to do.
After appearing a number of times on Match Game 73 and Match Game 74, you ended up becoming a semi-regular panelist on the show along with Betty White, Fannie Flagg, Marsha Wallace, and Patty Deutsch. Did Mark Goodson officially ask you if you wanted to be featured as a semi-regular panelist and appear on a week of shows every so often, or did you just happen to get the call to be on the show every few tape days?
No, but I'll tell you something funny about that. No, he didn't. But one day he came to dinner with all of us, and he took me aside because I had been asked to do Hollywood Squares also. And he said, if you ever do Hollywood Squares, you can never do Match Game again. So I said, yes, sir.
And thankfully that led to a lot of more seasons of Match Game.
I guess so, yes.
Was there a certain rotation that the producers followed when calling the semi-regulars, or was it just whoever was available that day?
I really have no idea how they did that. But that sixth seat was the hardest seat to sit in because everybody had given answers and you weren't told, but you kind of got the idea of being a professional person that they needed something fun in that sixth seat because everybody had given their answers. So by the time it got to you, you better be able to have your funny hat on.
Speaking of sitting in the sixth seat, from 1973 until he left in 1978, you always sat next to Richard Dawson. And even when you first began appearing on Match Game and sat in the fourth seat, it was still next to Richard. Now, he was a very suave guy and best known for being a ladies' man, and Richard loved kissing women. So what was it like sitting next to Richard during the tapings, especially since he was very good at the game and matched the contestants on many occasions?
I think you have to ask your readers to read my book. They will get a real insight into that.
Everyone, please go read Joyce's book.
Yeah, it was not easy. I tried to be friendly and nice, but it became difficult.
Did you know going into the tapings who was going to be there, or when you got there, you had no idea who else was on that week? Of course, you had Brett and Charles and Richard, but did you know the other people that were going to come as well?
No, I didn't. And Brett ended up being such a good friend. She was so sweet. I used to live in the San Fernando Valley, and she lived in Beverly Hills, and she'd say, I love you, darling, but I don't want to go to the dreaded valley.
I love hearing that you and Brett became friends, and I'm curious if you became friends with any of the other semi-regular Match Game panelists like Fannie Flagg or Marsha Wallace or Betty White.
Certainly Betty, because we did the Mary Tyler Moore Show together. And I adored Betty. And I also did a play with her husband, Alan Ludden, that she asked me to do called Critics' Choice. And she said, I just think you'd be so good playing his wife, and I wish you'd do it. So I did. And Betty said about me, she said, when Joyce tells a naughty joke, it sounds like a nursery rhyme. She was funny. I love it when people give me a compliment of saying you're like a young Betty White. I love that. That's a great compliment.
Well, in my eyes, you're certainly a young Betty White as well.
Thank you.
On Match Game tape days, you filmed 5 episodes in a day, but although you got a dinner break, was it tiring on the brain after playing so many questions throughout the taping period?
Yes, it was tiring. I was pretty tired when I would get home. But you just tried to make it fun and go with the moment and be a good game player. And for me, it was really hard.
In 1978, Match Game added a new feature called the Star Wheel, which was a wheel that the contestants spun during the super match portion to determine which celebrity they would play with during the head-to-head match. And the Star Wheel could also possibly double the money amount they were playing for in the process. Brad fact! Now, you had been chosen a few times for the head-to-head match portion of the game, but contestants typically chose Richard. However, now with the Star Wheel, you had a better chance of participating in the big money segment of the game with $10,000 or even $20,000 on the line for the contestant.
Good luck to you. Here it is. Mill blank. That's M-I-L-L blank. Mill blank. No community decisions here. Just put it in the slot and away we go here. All right, she's finished her answer, and you give us the answer that she has on the card, and you get $20,000.
Mill stream.
Mill stream. You thought a long time, didn't you? What other thoughts were going through your head?
Millhouse.
You're thinking Millhouse.
Millhouse.
Yeah, but you said Mill Stream.
I was thinking the old Mill Stream.
The old Mill.
And that's Mill Pond.
Mill Pond is another good one. Millsap.
I hate being in this position.
Why?
Because I really feel awful. That's a terrible thing to do to me. Because I have to give you $20,000.
So what were your initial thoughts on the Star Wheel, and was it nerve-wracking watching it spin because it could land on your name at any time?
It was very nerve-wracking, but I think some of the other game shows I did, like $20,000 Pyramid, that was more nerve-wracking. And you were trying so hard to help the contestant, but at least I didn't have to spell, so I was pretty good. You know what game I was best in? Password. Because being dyslexic, you always have to think, in order to get to one word, you have to think of another word called mnemonics. So I spent my life trying to find the word I needed by thinking of another word.
Okay, Michael, you're gonna go now. You ready? We've got 10 passwords here beginning with the letter A and going all the way alphabetically through to the letter J. You get 10 passwords in 60 seconds. You got $5,000. You know how to play? You know how to play? Remember, the first word starts with A. There it is, Joyce. That is the first word. You'll have 60 seconds. Ready? Go.
Pimples.
Acne.
B.
Top.
Bottom.
C.
Cob.
Corn.
D.
Alive.
Dead.
E.
A hand.
Elbow.
F.
A rose.
Flower.
G.
Trash.
Garbage.
H.
Slope.
Hill.
I.
Gnat.
Insect.
J.
Opal.
Jewel.
Green.
Gem. No.
Stone.
Jade.
Yes! This one is a chance for $5,000. 10 passwords beginning this time with the letter E and going alphabetically all the way through to the letter N. You get 10 of them in 60 seconds. You got $5,000. You know about that. Remember, the first word is E. First word starts with E. There it is, Joyce. That is the first word. You'll have 60 seconds. You ready? Go.
West. East.
F.
True. False.
G.
Lady. Gentleman.
H.
Embrace. Hug.
I.
Potato. Idaho.
K. J.
Music. Jazz.
K.
Sauce. Ketchup.
L.
Dog. Clue. Holder. Leash.
M.
Butterfly. Moth.
N.
Ark. Clue. Man. Noah.
You got it! Great clues. You had 18 seconds left. You were really concentrating that time. Those were good clues, dude. Those were really good clues.
Language is not automatic to a dyslexic. It is to a non-dyslexic. So you find all these different ways to cope. And one of the ways is to think of other words that will help you remember a name or a way to say a word. You come up with a story. So children who might seem slow are actually going through a tremendous amount of information in their Rolodex of their brain to get to the word they need. So I was really good at password. As a matter of fact, there was a celebrity password, and I won it. I felt like Miss America when they gave me roses and a silver platter and walked me down. That was thrilling. And you were playing for your favorite charity at the time.
Who needs Miss America when you are now Miss Password?
Exactly.
In 1978, Richard Dawson ended up leaving the show. Definitely go read Joyce's book, My Four Hollywood Husbands, to hear the Richard Dawson story. But I was curious, did the atmosphere change once he left?
I don't remember. Certainly for me, I was more at ease.
Well, you had the distinct pleasure of actually being on his last ever episode when he was wearing those sunglasses and he was just all somber. You have that distinct pleasure of being on the last ever week with Richard Dawson. Brad fact!
That's true. He was not being a very good sport.
Get ready to match the stars. Dick Martin, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, from Legs, Laurie Mahaffey, Richard Dawson, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game 78. And now, here's the star of Match Game 78, Gene Rayburn.
Hello, Johnny O. No whistling. Please, thank you for your enthusiasm.
No whistling. Can't stand whistling.
So deaf.
They can whistle at me if they want.
What's that?
They can whistle at me if they want.
All right.
I like
That's
you.
it. Cut.
Your last appearance week on Match Game was the fifth to last week of the syndicated series ending, which were episodes 501 to 505. Brad fact!
Get ready to match the stars. Fred Travelina, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Monique Van Loren, McLean Stevenson, and Joyce Bulifant as we play the star-studded Big Money Match Game. And now, here's the star of Match Game, Gene Rayburn.
John and friends, thank you for joining us. You're going to have a dandy time here today because the zoo is open again.
Thank you.
Welcome, one and all.
When you found out that the syndicated version of Match Game was officially being canceled, what was your reaction?
That I could stay home on Sundays with the family. I was going to miss the regular people who were on there, but I didn't exactly miss the work because I was just so busy all the time.
Did you think that the show might ever come back at the time, or did you think this was the last you'd ever see of Match Game?
I think I probably thought this was the last of it. And now that that's wrong, it certainly has come back, and in syndication, it evidently does really well. I certainly am getting letters from people who watch it now, the reruns, all the time.
Do you ever watch some of the episodes back and relive the memories?
I do when I can't sleep at night. I think, oh, I'll go watch Match Game. And it's kind of fun. Puts me right to sleep. What's funny is if I do watch an episode I'm in, I'm trying to think about what I would say. And quite often it's not the same thing I said. And sometimes it is the same thing. Isn't that funny?
Well, what's great about Match Game is that it's not like a quiz show in which once you see the episode, you'll probably remember the answers if you watch the same episode again, and you won't be able to play along. With Match Game, you could rewatch an episode multiple times and think of a different answer every time you hear the question.
Exactly. It's just amazing how much people watch and how much they enjoy it. I'll get a call and say, "You're on right now. Oh my gosh, it was so fun watching you." And that makes you feel pretty good.
Aside from Brett, who you mentioned became a friend of yours, did you keep in contact with any of the other Match Game panelists after the show got canceled?
Well, I would see Charles' shows. He did a wonderful one-man show. And I'd go see him afterwards to congratulate him. And I went to one of his acting classes once. I heard he was really good, and he was. And as you run into people like that in different social situations. But no, that was about it.
And do you think that the show could have lasted a little longer? I know that in a way you were happy because you got the weekends off, but do you think the show just ran its course, or do you think it could have lasted a couple more seasons?
I don't know, because I wasn't looking at ratings or anything like that. And I don't know what happened, why it sort of dwindled away. Maybe because there were other shows that were coming on. I don't know. But with the new show, Match Game is very different. It seems to me they're not as spontaneous. They're trying very hard to make it funny. Whereas when we did it, it was just naturally funny. Nobody tried hard to make it funny. It just was. Scripting does not work for me. I know sometimes I'd be on other shows and they'd say, here's your script for the answers. I said, no, I don't want to see those. I'm not going to act the answers. It needs to be natural. And there's a show called Chain Reaction. And Jerry Payne, who was one of the creators of it, was a friend of mine. And we did the pilot and they gave us answers. And it just went right into the toilet. It was not funny. The audience wasn't laughing. And after the first run through, I went to Jerry and I said, Jerry, try doing the next one without giving the celebrities the answers. It just doesn't work. And they did it the second time without the answers and the spontaneity, and it worked. And that was a successful game show.
This is Chain Reaction, where one word leads to another, and the right word leads to $100,000. With today's special guest stars, Joyce Bulifant and Nipsey Russell. And your host on Chain Reaction, Bill Collins.
Thank you all. Thank you. Hello there. Hi there. Thank you all very much, and welcome to Chain Reaction, where with just 1 penny you can start a chain reaction that builds up to $100,000. First of all, we welcome our... Hello, Joyce.
Hi there.
We're happy to... Oh, we missed.
Well, I know. Your wife is here.
I know.
I missed on purpose.
Okay, good. Whom did you bring? Who is this team of yours?
Oh, I brought Mr. and Mrs. Daniels. Aren't they cute?
They are cute. It's Lynn and Alan, right?
Right.
How are you, Lynn?
You can read, huh?
Yeah, right.
Lynn and Alan.
On their chest or breast, as the case may be. Alan, good luck.
Thank you.
Was Chain Reaction a difficult game for you to play with your dyslexia? Because for Chain Reaction, the goal is to correctly guess words that appear one letter at a time.
You know what? I can't remember what my brain was doing during that one. But maybe since I wasn't on very often, maybe it wasn't doing what it should. Password and the Pyramid, those were the easiest games for me.
After Match Game was canceled in 1982, the show returned a year later as the Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour from 1983 to 1984, then was revived again with host Ross Schaefer from 1990 to 1991 on ABC, and was revived for a third time in syndication with host Michael Berger from 1998 to 1999. Brad fact! Were you ever contacted to be on any of these versions of Match Game, especially the 1990 version, since Charles Nelson Reilly reprised his role as a regular panelist?
No, I wasn't.
It's really such a shame because I've been hoping that the current ABC version would do a retro episode and bring back panelists from the 1970s version of Match Game, like yourself, to play today. Don't you think that would be a great idea, Joyce?
Yes, I think it would be fun. I think they ought to do that. Be interesting to see how it would work. The problem with Match Game, though, is there are not a whole lot of us still kicking. Certainly none of the regulars. Charles and Brett and Gene and Richard have all gone to the big game in the sky.
Yeah, whenever a big game show figure in my life passes away, it certainly is a sad day for me. And we recently just lost 3 game show giants in Alex Trebek, Regis Philbin, and Tom Kennedy. But Joyce, do you remember the passings of Charles, Brett, and Gene and your reaction to hearing the news?
Oh, sure. Very sad. Nature is nature. And my granddaughter, when she was 7, she said, Lala, people have to die so other people can have a turn. And I thought, that's such wisdom from a 7-year-old. And it's true. You just have to accept that's part of life, is dying.
But what's great about the longevity of game shows is, thanks to our television screens and the internet, we can remember and appreciate those individuals who gave us so much joy for many years by rewatching their shows.
Yes, it's great. I get to see old friends and old husbands.
Well, speaking of that, I know you were on Tattletales with your second husband, Ed Mallory.
Everyone in this arena has a money stake in one of our famous couples. Rooting section number 1 has its money on Meredith McRae of Petticoat Junction and movie and TV star Greg Malavy. Rooting section number 2 backs Broadway musical comedy stars Elaine Joyce and Bobby Van. And rooting section number 3 is betting on Joyce Bulifant of Love Thy Neighbor and Edward Mallory of The Days of Our Lives as we play the game of celebrity gossip, Tattletales. And here's the star of Tattletales, Bert Convy.
That was in 1974, and didn't you get separated from him in 1974 as well?
It's hard to keep track. We were separated, and then we got back together to try again. And I can't remember which year we got divorced. My marriages, although there were 4 of them, they were not that short-lived. I was married to James MacArthur for 9 years, and to Ed Mallory 7 years, and to William Asher 20 years, and to my wonderful Roger Perry for 17 years.
Since you just mentioned your 4 husbands, let's now talk about your book that you authored and released back in 2017 called My 4 Hollywood Husbands, which talks about your 4 marriages, each of which to a Hollywood star in their own right, that happen to have an alcohol problem. The book also chronicles your 7-decade career in show business, so despite writing about the tough times in your life and the demons that burdened each of your husbands, did writing the book bring back many memories of your time in the entertainment industry, especially your game show appearances?
Oh, yes, of course. It took 24 years to write the book. When I started it was going to be called Home Sweet Home, Where Is It? Because I've lived in so many places since childhood because I was a foster child. So there were so many different places I lived. And then a friend called me one day, about 2 years before I finished the book, and said, Joyce, I have a title for your book. And I said, what is it? And he said, My 4 Hollywood Husbands. I said, that is disgusting. I would never title my book that. And then I thought for a couple of weeks, and I thought, well, it might sell books. So I went a whole different route and made it more about the relationships with the husbands, the entertainment world that I was in, and my great love story with Roger Perry that wove through all of those marriages till we finally got together and got married.
And I know that he's been on 300 shows, right?
Oh, over that, I think. Yeah. And movies. And he was a composer.
Obviously, divorce and breakups are oftentimes hard to handle. So as you were writing the book, was it difficult thinking back to the years spent with your ex-husbands?
No, it was fine. I was friends with all my husbands. It was difficult with Jimmy. That divorce was very difficult. But I remained friends with him. We were more like brother and sister because I was very close to his mother. And also we went to high school together. We started dating when we were 16. So we had a lot of common background and a lot of stories and travels. And we remained friendly right up to his death.
Going back to your game show career, do you remember being on the 1977 game show pilot called The Riddlers, hosted by David Letterman?
Oh, gosh. I saw that recently. I was sorry that show didn't go. I thought it was cute.
This week, Joanne Worley.
Bonsoir.
Robert Urich.
Hi there. Hi.
Joyce Bulifant.
Hi there.
Michael McKeon.
Hello.
And Deborah Lee Scott.
Hello.
Will be competing against these 5 dance instructors on The Riddlers. With your host, David Letterman.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, the first item going up for bid is this wonderful automatic garage door opener.
It was a little strange being with Joanne because she was dating Roger and she resented me. Roger and I had gone together in 1967 to 68. And then Roger broke up with me, which broke my heart. But it was a time when people were living together, having children out of wedlock. And he wanted to move in with me. And I had 2 little children. And I said, no, I don't do that. I was very square. I just don't do that. And then he started dating Joanne. So Joanne was not very fond of me because Roger and I had a close relationship. So that was difficult. And we were often on the same pilots for game shows. And I tried to be friendly and nice, but she obviously wasn't fond of me.
Do you remember any of the other pilots that you were on?
Oh, gosh, there were so many. There was one about making up words, and I can't remember. I did so many of those.
See, but that proves a point about the game show industry back then, is that they were always trying something new, and I wish they would do that now.
Yes, right. It would be good. They should.
You talked about how much you loved playing Password and Pyramid during the 70s, but when the 80s versions of those shows were on, including Super Password and the $100,000 Pyramid, you never appeared on those incarnations. So I'm curious if you were ever asked to be on the 80s versions of Password and Pyramid.
No, I wasn't. Well, I didn't have a PR person at that time. And as I said, I was so busy being a mom. And as your children become teenagers, you're more invested in making sure that they're growing up properly with boundaries, that I just didn't have that kind of time. Had I been asked, it would have been fun if I could fit it in to my schedule, yeah.
In 1979, you appeared alongside Ronnie Shell, Patty Deutsch, and Johnny Brown on the all-new All-Star Beat the Clock with host Monty Hall.
Winning money today for the red section of our audience, Joyce Bulifant and Ronnie Shell. And winning money for the green section, Patty Deutsch and Johnny Brown. As we play the all-new All-Star Beat the Clock. And here's the star of Beat the Clock, Monty Hall.
Beat the Clock is, of course, a stunt show, so was it fun for a change participating on a game show that was more about physical ability rather than mental ability?
Oh, sure, that was fun. I wouldn't like to do that show where they're trying to get across and not fall in the water and all kinds of things are hitting them. I don't think I'd like to do that one.
You'll just stick to knocking down little plastic boats with ping pong balls.
Yes, thank you.
And in 2009, along with Nancy Dussault and Patty Deutsch, you accepted the award on behalf of Match Game for Favorite Classic Game Show at GSN's first and only Game Show Awards. Brad Fact!
She plays my all-time favorite divorced alcoholic customer relations rep on The Office, and he is a 3-time Emmy nominee, legend of improv, and one of the funniest actors in TV and movie history. Please welcome Kate Flannery and Fred Willard.
Such an honor to give out the very first game show award. I've always wanted to find out what's behind the curtain. Spin the wheel, buy a vowel, or just come on down. I mean, they're all classics, right, Fred?
All show classics. In my career, I have found there are 3 classic things that are at their best once they turn 25 years old. A Corvette, a bottle of scotch, and a woman. Is it me, or does that sound like Rosie O'Donnell's prom night? I don't know. Is it... Who's going to win out there tonight?
Well, Fred, the nominees for Favorite Classic Game Show are...
Favorite Classic Game Show. Let's make a deal.
And take a look at what's behind door number 3. It is $20,000. And you've got yourself a king-size rocking chair.
Match Game.
When John saw this girl at the cocktail party, he could tell by the way she was dressed that she was a blank.
I'm going to say a swinger.
All those that wrote hooker, I'd rather you didn't come to the church bazaar.
Pyramid.
You want us to give the money away, right? Yes!
Old-fashioned Japanese women's feet.
Things that are bound?
You just...
As Paul Lynde would say, it's tough to pick a winner, but... Thank you, Kate. The winner for Favorite Classic Game Show is... Match Game!
Accepting for Match Game are 3 of your favorite players, Nancy Dussault, Joyce Bulifant, and Patty Deutsch.
Do we
I get to keep these? This is lovely. Game shows were so important to all of us. We had such a good time. And Gene Rayburn was the perfect host. He was handsome. Yeah. These two beautiful women also were fabulous on the show.
So thank you. It's so nice of you to vote for us. That's wonderful. And I was the dummy who couldn't spell. I still can't. And it was so much fun with Charles Nelson Reilly. He was great. Thank you. Gene Rayburn was not only a remarkable game show host, but he was a terrific host backstage also. And every week he would insist that everybody sit down and have dinner together, which we did. And one week my husband and my child came over and we all had dinner. And the next morning, Kay Henley called and said, the caterer tested positive for hepatitis. Everybody needs to go get a gamma globulin shot immediately. So we had as much fun off stage as on.
Did you get to keep the actual award that was given to you on stage, or were they just prop pieces?
I think they were just prop pieces. I don't think I ever got to keep anything.
That's such a shame because those are really cool awards.
Yes, right.
And Joyce, over your 70-plus years in show business, you've seen the television industry evolve and the game show industry evolve. So I'm curious, what's your opinion about the game show industry today and the television industry as a whole today?
Well, we talked about Match Game, the fact that they scripted or they try to be funny, and when you try to be funny, it's not funny. And I think that in the television industry, I'm a little sad that the suits, as we used to call them, the non-creative people, have such a big say instead of the creative people. I thought that was really a mistake, that they listen to the money instead of listening to creative people. I think that it's very sad when you audition for something. Well, now with COVID, it's all Zoom and everything. But before that, you go in and you audition with a video person who's filming you, and you're not talking to another actor and doing a scene with them and meeting all the people that are involved so that the director can say to you, no, that's not what we had in mind. Try this or do that. Or they're not trying to match you up with people you have chemistry with. I think they lose a great deal in that. And the writing. On the Mary Tyler Moore Show, we come in for a table reading on Monday, and it would be a funny script. It would be, you could shoot it. But those writers did not stop improving on that script till the very end. They constantly worked on the script. And as Shakespeare said, the play's the thing. You can have good actors, but if you don't have good material, forget about it.
I agree with you. I think that if you let the creative people be creative and let them do their job, I think that you can really get a lot of great material out there, not just the game show world, but in TV in general.
Exactly.
And I do want to mention the movie Airplane because last year, 2020, was the 40th anniversary of the film. And I always love when you were plugging the movie on a game show because you wouldn't remember if the title was Airplane or Airport.
And Joyce Bulifant. Well, Joyce and I see each other all the time in various shows. It's good to have you with us again.
Nice
all
to
four
be
of you.
here.
What are you doing? Anything special?
A movie I did called Airplane, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Well, they had to
Can I change partners?
They had to change the name because of Airplane Airport. I always forget which one was which.
But it was something that took place in the air.
That's true.
And that's where she is most of the time.
That's me.
I've always wanted to know, being that the movie is now a comedy classic, what was it like working on Airplane?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to do it. I read the script and I said, this is stupid. These are people coming down the baggage claim. It doesn't make any sense. And the plane is going into the building. It's not funny. It's just silly. I don't want to do it. And my husband, Bill, said, you are an actress. You act. So I said, okay. So we're on the set in the mock-up airplane and we're walking around saying to each other, do you think this is funny? We all had no idea. And Howard Koch's wife, who was one of the producers, Ruth, said to me, this is just going to be awful. We went to the first screening in the big Paramount screening theater, and we looked at each other and said, oh, God, I even hate sitting through this stupid thing. And it started, and people were falling off of their seats into the aisles. They were laughing so hard. And Ruth and I just looked at each other and went, well, we sure were wrong about that.
But it had great comedy, like on Match Game.
Yeah, right, it did.
Before we get to the game, would you like to thank the fans and thank Gene for the memories you have of Match Game?
Oh my goodness, yes, thank you. You up in the sky, twinkling in the stars and blowing in the breeze. It was a wonderful, happy, loving, and close time together. And to have that joy and to spread it to others was a great gift. So thank you all.
Well, Joyce, we have reached my favorite portion of the game show, and I'm super excited that I have the chance to host a Match Game-inspired game that I created for one of the best semi-regular Match Game panelists to play. It's time for the Game of the Day!
Game of the Day.
Now, Joyce, as you know, since we talked about it today and you were a panelist on some of the episodes, from 1975 to 1981, there was a weekly syndicated nighttime version of Match Game, appropriately titled Match Game PM. Well, since we're on the radio right now and WRHU is on the FM dial, I thought it would be fitting if we play a game called Match Game FM. Match Game FM. So here's how this game works. All of the questions that I'm going to use during Match Game FM will be actual questions from the 1973 to 1982 edition of Match Game, or Match Game PM. In addition, all of these questions will be from episodes that you actually appeared on.
Uh-oh.
So this is just like you watching at night. You know, you're trying to match yourself.
And I don't have to spell. Yay.
That's right. It's just like the super match portion. All you have to do is fill it in verbally.
Okay, good.
Just like the show, there's going to be 3 rounds, and for each round, you can pick either question A or question B. Then I will tell you the names of all the celebrities that were on the panel for that episode, and then read you the question. Now, your goal is to get 6 matches over the course of 3 rounds, and if you can do that, you will be a winner.
Good.
Now, there's one other wrinkle. During any round, if you are not satisfied with the score that you got from the first question, you can choose to do the other question that you didn't pick and substitute that score for your score instead.
Okay.
So, are you ready to play Match Game 40 years after you last stepped on the Match Game set?
Oh, gosh. Yes, and I hope I do better.
I'm sure you will. Let's play Match Game FM. We're going to start with round 1. And would you like question A or question B?
B.
B it is. And here are the celebrities from this episode. This question is from episode number 803, which was Match Game 76. And the celebrities are Scoey Mitchell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Deborah Lee Scott, Richard Dawson, and of course you, Joyce Bulifant. And here's the question. Stanley has the worst job in the world. He's the taster at a blank factory.
Ooh, dear.
Stanley has the worst job in the world. He's the taster at a blank factory.
I'm going to say glue.
Very good answer, Joyce. Let's see if the celebrities agree with you. Scoey Mitchell said glue. You have 1 match.
Wow, great.
Your friend Brett Summers also said glue. You have 2 matches.
Wow.
Off to a great start. You're already 1/3 of the way there. Charles Nelson Reilly said castor oil.
Yuck.
Deborah Lee Scott said shoe polish. Richard Dawson said prunes. And you also said castor oil, so you actually matched with Charles back in the day.
Oh, that's funny.
And the contestant said quinine.
Oh, dear.
So you have 2 matches. Do you want to keep those 2 matches, or do you want to use your redo?
I'll keep them.
I think that's a very smart decision, Joyce. So with 4 matches to go for a win, we're going to move on to round 2. And by the way, I hope I'm doing Gene Rayburn justice as I host this game.
Oh, you're doing very well.
I appreciate it, Joyce. Thank you. So do you want A or B in round 2?
A.
Going with A. This is from Match Game PM episode 150. And the celebrities are Nipsey Russell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Lonnie Anderson, Jack Jones, and Joyce Bulifant.
I see Jack Jones here in the desert often.
Well, now you can reminisce about Match Game. Maybe you can match him all these years later.
Right.
And this is your round 2 question. Barry said, the food at that restaurant was so rotten.
How rotten was it?
When the waiter brought the steak, he asked me if I'd like to eat it or blank it. Barry said the food at that restaurant was so rotten, when the waiter brought the steak, he asked me if I'd like to eat it or blank it.
Write it.
Write it is your answer. And Joyce, let's see what the celebrities had to say. Nipsey Russell said, wear it. Brett Summers said, kill it. Charles Nelson Reilly said, beat it. Lonnie Anderson said, revive it. Jack Jones said, smoke it. And you said, wear it. So you got no matches.
Oh, dear.
I'm presuming you want to use your redo on this one, correct?
Oh, yes, please.
Very good. And this is the B question. And this is from the same episode with the same celebrities. So it's Match Game PM, episode 150. Nipsey Russell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Lonnie Anderson, Jack Jones, and of course, you, Joyce Bulifant. And here's the question. Otto the Optimist said, there's something good in everything that happens to me. Like last week, I was run over, but I had the good fortune to be run over by a blank. Otto the Optimist said, there's something good in everything that happens to me. Like last week, I was run over, but I had the good fortune to be run over by a blank.
Snail.
By a snail. Okay, let's go to the celebrities and see what they said. Nipsey Russell said, ambulance. Brett Summers said, Volkswagen. Charles Nelson Reilly said, ambulance as well. Lonnie Anderson said, the good humor truck. Jack Jones said, blimp. And you said, buy a Mercedes.
Oh.
Well, you got no matches, but that's okay. We're going to round 3, and you still need 4 matches. But of course, round 3 should be the easiest of the rounds. So I'm pulling for you, Joyce.
Thank you.
A or B?
A.
Question A. This is from Match Game 77, episode 893. The celebrities are Nipsey Russell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Rosemary Forsythe, Richard Dawson, and you. And Joyce, remember, you need 4 matches on this question to win, so good luck. Santa Claus said, I think my elves don't like me. Yesterday it was freezing, so to make me warmer, those rotten elves set fire to my blank. Santa Claus said, I think my elves don't like me. Yesterday it was freezing, so to make me warmer, those rotten elves set fire to my blank.
Beard.
Very good answer. Now remember, you need 4 matches to win the game.
Right.
Nipsey Russell said, beard or whiskers, you have 1.
Yay.
Brett Summers said, nice little house up north. So no match there. You still need 3 more. Charles Nelson Reilly also said beard.
Yay.
Rosemary Forsythe also said beard.
Yay.
You need 1 more to win, and you have 2 chances to get it. Richard Dawson said beard. You won.
Yay! Yay! What did I say originally?
You also said beard, so you matched yourself.
Oh, good.
So congratulations, Joyce. With a total of 7 matches, you have won Match Game FM.
Yay!
Would you like to play the other one to see how well you would have done?
Sure.
The question was, Fonzie's girlfriend Pinky is really tough.
How tough is she?
Not only does she wear black leather boots, she even wears black leather blanks. Fonzie's girlfriend Pinky is really tough. Not only does she wear black leather boots, she also wears black leather blanks.
High heels.
High heels, okay. Nipsey said panties. Brett Summers said bras. Charles Nelson Reilly said panties. Rosemary Forsythe said underwear. Richard Dawson said undies. And you said bras. So no matches there. So good thing you picked A. And just for fun, this is the unchosen question from round 1, which was from Match Game 76, episode 803. and featured Scoey Mitchell, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Reilly, Deborah Lee Scott, Richard Dawson, and you, Joyce Bulifant. This is the question, which was question A. You've heard of the song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Well, old man Periwinkle said, I just wrote a song. It's called I Left My Blank in San Francisco. You've heard of the song, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Well, old man Periwinkle said, I just wrote a song. It's called I Left My Blank in San Francisco.
Teeth.
Very good answer. Scoey Mitchell said pacemaker. Brett Summers said virility. Charles Nelson Reilly said hearing aid. Deborah Lee Scott said dentures, so that's a match.
Right.
Richard Dawson said dentures, that's another match.
Good.
And you exactly matched yourself because you said teeth.
Oh, good. Yay.
So once again, Joyce, congratulations. You have won this game of Match Game FM.
Thank you.
I hope this was just as fun as being on the Match Game set 40 years ago.
It was. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad to know that if given the chance to hold the skinny microphone, I can do Gene Rayburn proud.
You did. You did a good job.
And thank you to Gene Rayburn and the Game Show in the Sky for all your television guidance over the years. Even though I didn't get to meet him, he is certainly in me somewhere.
That's good. Yes, I can hear it. You do very good. You should do a live game show.
Well, that's my dream. My dream is to host game shows one day. I've had that dream since 7 years old, so I'm glad that I have your support.
You do, 100%.
Well, thank you, Joyce. Your support truly means the world to me. And that was the game of the day, Match Game FM. Match Game FM. Well, Joyce, this has been so much fun chatting with you about Match Game and your other game show appearances over the years. So thank you very much for taking the time to join me on the game show today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. And Joyce, feel free to tell the listeners one more time about your book and where they can go about getting a copy.
My 4 Hollywood Husbands can be purchased on Amazon.com, and it's the story of alcoholism and the effects it has on a family, especially children. And it's woven through the golden age of Hollywood and a wonderful love story.
Perfect. And Joyce, you always have an open invitation to join me again whenever you'd like to chat some more, or if you want to play another game of Match Game FM.
Thank you so much.
All right, Joyce, take care, and thank you for providing me with so many great memories for more than 15 years.
Well, thank you for watching. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But don't change that station just yet, because it's time for another Bradley Parody. Bradley Parody. This is a brand new feature on the game show in which I create a parody song about an aspect of this episode. And I think it's pretty obvious which game show I'm creating a parody about for episode number 56. You guessed it, it's Match Game. So I present to you Bradley Parody number 7 to the tune of Bonnie Tyler's hit song, It's a Heartache. This Bradley parody is called It's the Match Game. It's the Match Game. The star-studded big money match game. Johnny Olsen says the names as the box spins around. The sign lights the stage, and Johnny O announces the name of the star of Match Game. Gene Rayburn comes out. It's the Match Game. The shag carpet skinny Mike Match Game. Richard has jokes to say. Brett and Charles clown around. Panelists who appear frequently include Joyce, Fanny, and Patty, who and include Betty White and Marsha Wallace. 2. Oh, it's the match game. The fill-in-the-blank question match game. The questions sometimes had names, like Weird Willie and Dumb Dora. And when you play, the definitive answer you hope to say. If you do, the crowd will go, yay! If you don't, they'll boo and frown. Contestants hope that they will do well by giving the answer Howard Cosell or boobs. And if a panelist's answer stinks, Gene will call them a ding-a-ling or buffoon. Oh, it's the match game. The star-studded big money match game. For 6 years the show stayed on CBS Daytime. It's the match game. The year was in the name. From 73 to 79. It's the match game. The Star Wheel came in 78. From the ceiling it dropped down. It's the match game. The shag carpet skinny mic match game. It's the 70s on display, but it's still fun to watch now. It's the match game. After hearing that parody song, if I asked you how you thought it was, I hope you fill in the blank with a positive response. And that was this episode's Bradley Parody. Bradley Parody. Well, unfortunately, the shag carpeted turntable is starting to move, meaning we have reached the end of this episode of The Game Show. My thanks once again to actress, author, and semi-regular Match Game panelist Joyce Bulifant for chatting with me today about Match Game and her other game show appearances. Now, although Joyce is the first ever Match Game celebrity panelist to join me on the game show, I've had the honor of inviting on as my special guest the host of Match Game 98, Michael Berger, who also played Match Game FM for his game of the day. If you would like to listen to Michael Berger's episode, re-listen to this episode featuring Joyce Bulifant, or check out any of my previous episodes of the game show, all you have to do is log on to www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. That's www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLEY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. In addition, The Game Show is now on YouTube. That's right, you can listen to all episodes, game segments, Bradley parodies, and more by going onto The Game Show's YouTube channel. And if you're a loyal friend and true, please remember to like and subscribe. Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and #TheGameShow. And of course, be sure to tune in next time for another exciting episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and I've got to go get ready for my date with Dumb Dora. Bye for now.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.